to agenda item number 10, Commission General Regulation Workshop. Public comment will be allowed. 10A, Commission General Regulation 457 T-115. Shall I stop?
Yes, you may. Mr. Chairman and Commission, I just wanted to follow through on what happens with that regulation now that it's been approved. Since we are in a legislative session, sometimes the LCD subcommittee does meet during a session. I'm not sure they have this session because it is moving fairly quickly. So I don't know on the calendar if this will be implemented for the first come, first serve this year, because it still has that one more step even though you've approved it. So we'll keep it on the radar, and hopefully it'll come up on the subcommittee's agenda and get approved, and we can go forward with implementation. Now, internally, I might have some questions on whether we can be prepared to implement once it is approved, or if we can have the programming in place, and once it's approved, anybody who's picked up a tag, we know that they're not going to lose their points. So we still have some internal discussion to do, but that's still one more step before it is final.
Okay. Appreciate the update on that. All right, moving to 10A, Commission General Regulation 457 T-15. This is a temporary LCB file. Awards, issuance, and use of tags. Proposed changes to NAC 502.42279. Dean Division Administrator Brian Wakeling. This is a workshop with public comment allowed. The Commissioner will hear a temporary regulation amending license issuance and use clarification for elk incentive tags. Elk incentive tags were designed to be issued associated with bull hunts and seasons. Subsequent to initial NRS and NAC adoption, associated with bull hunts, spike hunts have been developed, and antler tags do not clearly denote appropriate quota or season for which the incentive tags are intended. The Department will propose language that clarifies the original intent of the legislation and rule promulgation to clearly articulate the association between the incentive tags and bull seasons, excluding any spike season, antlered or antlerless season. Mr. Wake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Brian Wakeling, Game Chief with the Nevada Department of Wildlife. This proposed regulation, or this inconsistency that led to the proposed regulation, was brought forward to us by some members of the public, contacted some of our biologists within the eastern region, and pointed out that the way our current rules and regulations are constructed, they've left the door open that perhaps an incentive tag could be obtained, and that it might be used or argued for a season that was not originally intended, a spike season that might occur during a rut hunt, for instance, or something of that nature. We have not had anybody, to our knowledge, actually use one of these tags in this situation. We have not issued one under those kind of conditions. However, in reviewing it, we noted that NRS 502.142 established the program. It did so originally in 1997, and it discusses bull elk. The common definition of bull elk would, of course, be a male elk, but at times there's some inconsistencies. A male elk may, or a female elk could actually sprout antlers in some conditions. And so, in order to be more consistent, in a revision coming up in about 2010, the whole concept of an antlered season was actually codified in NAC. Consequently, that with that shift and the going away from bull elk, but we did add the definition of spike elk, there wasn't anywhere in either NRS or NAC a definition of bull. Consequently, as has been brought up, we've recommended some wording, largely just specifying in those instances where we use the word antler, we simply follow that up with excluding spike elk to clarify that our intent, the original intent of this legislation and the rule that implements it, was to have those seasons available for a bull elk hunter harvesting a mature elk. And consequently, this is what we've recommended, and willing to try to answer any questions the Commission may have.
Questions by the Commission? Commissioner Moran?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, with the language that is added, since this does affect the incentive tag program, and the total number of in that formula, total number of antlered elk tags is an element. Will this language affect the number of incentive tags available to the landowner?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Morai, we have not, this will not change the way it has currently been implemented. The way it has been interpreted is to deal with the bull elk segment. And so part of the concern with this, if we do not address this, is that with the issuance of spike tags, in addition to bull elk tags, it could dramatically increase the eligible amount for the incentive tags. However, because we have not ever considered the spike component as part of that eligibility, I think someone could logically argue, I'm not sure if they could effectively argue that that was indeed the case, but what we're trying to do, no one has yet argued that point. We have not interpreted it consistent, not considering the spike. So this is not going to make a change in what we are doing. When we looked at this NAC, tried to do the any business impact at all, this is not going to alter the way we're currently practicing. It will not result in any additional cost to any participant in the program or any additional cost to the agency. This is intended to keep things exactly as it's been.
So maybe I can follow up with Commissioner Morai's question. In one, we show the formula, and then down below we say that NT is the total number of antlered elk tags excluding spike. So are we saying that we've never had spike hunt? That's what we're saying? Is that why we're not changing the calculation technically? We've never included a spike hunt because we've never had a spike hunt.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
So it's not necessarily the number of spikes on the ground, it's the number of tags in that formula?
That is correct.
Commissioner Johnston?
Well, I'm thinking then if you have an area where you have antlered bull elk tags being issued, and you're issuing spike tags as well as a management tool, and in that formula, I think the tags should be both to arrive at the number of incentive tags. That if you are issuing more tags in the area, because now you have antlered and spike tags, that the number of incentive tags should increase as well.
Now you're following me.
I'm with you. I'm right with you. I'm not in the swimming pool. I'm out on the edge.
With the mic, right? So,
But I know exactly, I'm with you. I understand where you're at, Pete, Commissioner Moore.
Mr. Wakeling, is there a reason not to include spike tags as part of that calculation?
Mr. Chairman, I think the primary concern that we have is, from the agency's perspective is some of these spike seasons occur during times that are kind of more of the during the rut, the trophy time frame. If we were to include those seasons as part of the eligible period in which a incentive tag holder might participate, it's going to dramatically increase the value of these tags, and it's also likely to affect the availability of some of these older age class bulls for the regular hunter.
Commissioner Johnson?
Suggesting that the season be changed in that manner. It's the formula and the calculation of the number of incentive tags. I wish I could articulate this better, but it seems to me that if in a given area you are issuing more tags for male elk, whether it be antlered or spike, that should be considered in the formula, but not necessarily change when the incentive tag can be used.
So I guess to build on that before we have yourself and Mr. Gray address this, I think what Brad and Pete are getting at, and what might make some sense to me, and you can tell me why it doesn't, is if you struck excluding spike from the two areas in the first page. So essentially, it's talking about the total number of tags issued in the calculation, but not necessarily doing anything with the seasons. Is that a logical step to take, or does that not make sense for some reason?
Mr. Chairman, I think that would address specifically address the points that Commissioner Warren and Commissioner Johnson brought up. I think I would like to have King Gray speak to this a little bit. It's from his region. He's got some specific examples.
Okay. Mr. Kidd, good afternoon.
How you doing? This will be a little easier than you guys' morning session, maybe. Just the reason why we're concerned about it is, in order to kill, our success rates for a bull is 56%. Our success rates for spikes are 14%. As an example, let's just say that to kill the same number of bulls with 100 tags, if we wanted to kill that same number of spikes, we would issue 400 tags. So it's gonna jack the incentive tags up probably more than we think. For example, in unit group 076, if we were to kill just 10 spikes or 14 spikes in that area, we would add 100 tags, which would eventually add 15 incentive tags into that area. In other words, we would basically go from 51 tags to 66 tags in that area by just killing 14 spike bulls in that area with what we're looking at doing. So, we just got to be aware that there's going to be a pretty major increase, and we do take all those tags off the top end of sportsmen. So every tag that the incentive tags gets, we take it off from the sportsman. But I understand where Pete's coming from. I think that that right now all these tags are going to be add-on tags because we're really not managing our bull ratios. We're not issuing bull tags by bull ratios. We're issuing bull tags based on the tolerance out there, and we're also issuing on how many high-end bulls are being killed because we're issuing so many cow tags right now. So if once we do get our elk numbers back into our objectives and we start chasing our bull ratios down, then we really could be taking some of the spikes that we're killing. We could be taken out of that the bull quota that we would use for calculating incentive tags. So to me, it might be a fair way to do it is to maybe look at the number of spikes that we're killing and just add that percentage of spikes to the bull quota, and then it'd be counting for that spike bull kill out of there. That sounds complicated, but it's not as complicated as I'm making it sound.
Additional questions for Mr. Gray or Mr. Wakeling?
I got a comment. If you change it from spike only to anything without a brow point or a biz or something like that, I know that when I was going to college in Utah, they offered a tag like that was, aimed at the age class of elk that we're wanting to do, or that we're wanting to harvest here. And but actually locating a spike that is maybe not forked at the 2-point or something, those ones would be illegal to harvest. You're looking for just a straight spike. So if we broadened it to where it was anything without a brow point, so you could maybe potentially shoot a branched antler bull that was maybe your success would go up and you wouldn't have to issue as many tags by just making the range sizable that you wanting to harvest the age class, broadening in that a little bit.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Bliss, I strongly suspect that if we liberalize the definition of that spike class to include a broader definition of it, our hunt success very likely would increase for a couple of reasons. One is the availability of those other animals are greater. Secondarily, just the fact that trying to ensure that you're shooting a spike and not something else close to it can be a challenge in the under field conditions at times. However, that's kind of my sense is that that definition, I'm not exactly sure where that definition is housed. but it's probably outside of the purview of this particular NAC. It's certainly something worth considering, and we wouldn't know what the success on that would be for, we need a couple of years to kind of look at how that would play out.
Additional questions?
I just have a comment, if I may.
Commissioner Valentine?
In my mind, by taking the spikes out of the formula, it reduces the number of incentive tags and puts additional tags into sportsmen's and hunters' pockets. So in my mind, that's a good thing.
Commissioner Moran, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I did, and I understand what the department's trying to do. However, I was trying, since this is a workshop deal, trying to come up with, if we could make the appropriate changes so that I don't hear from my constituents that there are more tags allocated, but proportionately, the incentive tags are not being increased. That's my concern.
So along those lines, let me throw this out, and I think, Mr. Gray, this gets to what you had suggested. If on page 1 where you say NT equals the total number of antlered excluding spike elk tags that were issued during the previous year, and the new language would say plus spike harvest during the previous year in the unit or units within the management area or areas in which the private land is located. So we're no longer calculating in success, we're actually calculating the actual harvest from the previous year, so we don't have these wild spikes. All pun intended. Would that sort of language make sense?
Yeah, I think to clarify it, or the intent of this, and I don't think that we're going to see a decrease in the incentive tags. I don't think we're going to see that, but yeah, exactly. And if I use an example here, as I say, okay, we have 100 tags to kill 50 bulls. Say 10 spikes are killed at 20%. What we would do is add that 20% to the quota for calculation of the incentive tag. So exactly what you're saying. We're no longer dealing with the success rate. We're taking the success rate out there and basically using dead bulls as our measure. And then so basically then in the short term, it would probably be a 10% increase for the land for the incentive tags. But I think as we start dipping into it and taking those spikes off the front end, then it's gonna level itself out.
Additional commission comment, question, or discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll open it up. County Advisory Board input on this one? 10A? Come on up. Public comment, come on up. Got it?
Mike Reese, Clark County Cab. We had a unanimous vote on this, 6-0. We fully support the temporary regulation as presented.
Sean Shea, Washoe County. We voted unanimously for this too.
Public comment in Las Vegas?
No comment in Las Vegas.
Public comment in Elko?
None in Elko.
Okay. So I'll bring it back to the commission. Any discussion? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Actually, I'm not looking for a motion. This is a workshop. So the direction that I guess I would need from the board is in the calculation under item 1, under the NT, to want to add in plus spikes harvested during the previous year as part of that calculation, so that when it goes back out to the county advisory boards, they understand what we're trying to look at in terms of that calculation.
Commissioner, Chairman Drew, I think there's be a good balance here where the formula adequately takes into account the additional number of tags being issued in the area and the appropriate increase, or maybe not, in the incentive tags without a drastic reduction in the number of tags in the main draw. But I think Commissioner Moore has brought up a very good point. I think in hearing from Mr. Gray, there's a way to address that and find a good compromise point to address the issues that were identified today.
Commissioner Moran?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I wanna ask the department, with this language, are you guys okay with that? Is that something that's an option that you guys think is?
I think we'd want to wordsmith it to make sure that we're capturing what you guys are saying, and, but I think we can get back to the table, certainly get back to you guys with something that you know overall.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Moore, I just, for the record, I'm not sure that Ken's answer was picked up on the audio, but I think we'd be comfortable with that. I think what we'd like to do is make sure we've got the opportunity to wordsmith it and make sure. But I believe the intent that you've expressed is consistent with our biologically would be fine.
So what I'd like to do is, what I'd like to move out of the workshop, unless there's an objection, is on number 1, the definition of NT as part of the calculation. Read something similar to the total number of antlered, excluding spike, elk tags that were issued during the previous year, plus spike harvest during the previous year in the unit or units within the management area or areas in which the private land was located, with authority by the department to adjust wording to meet that intent so that it can go back out to the Public and County Advisory Board. Any objection to moving out of workshop with that language and the authority for the department to wordsmith to meet the intent? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the workshop on agenda item 10A with that direction going forward, and we'll bring it back at the appropriate meeting in the future. We'll move to agenda item 10B, Commission General Regulation 456 T15 Temporary LCD File Elk Arbitration Process. Game Division Administrator Brian Wakeling. Workshop public comment will be allowed. The Commission will hear proposed process describing the newly amended arbitration, NAC 502.42283, by which the Commission may facilitate decisions should arbitration of elk incentive tag awards become necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just as a side note, Brian, before you start, either Elko or Vegas has a mic on. If you could check your mics and turn them off, that would be helpful to us for picking up. Perfect. Thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian Wakeling, Game Chief in Dell. This regulation is designed to amend the existing code, and this will provide the ability for the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners to either be the arbitration panel or to designate an arbitration panel in the case where we might have a challenge or a request for an arbitration for elk incentive tags. Currently, this process is handled through a local panel. That local panel has had some challenges, and they have in fact expressed concern to the Board of Commissioners and to the department regarding the difficulty and kind of the hard spot they get placed in, because it's currently based out of a local panel that has to be made up of local community members, and they're sitting in judgment over someone who is in their local community. They have to go to school with their children and the like. So this has actually been discussed before the Commission on 3 separate times, and in fact the wording that is before you within this particular temporary NEC proposal to be brought for you has been wordsmithed and has been workshopped. The Commission heard it in August, they heard it in September, and they heard it again in November. We did not place this in the appropriate files in order to move it forward through a temporary NEC, and so for the purposes of actually sticking with the appropriate approach, that's what our intent is today.
Questions for Mr. Wakeling? Seeing none, if this looks familiar, it should. Thank you, Brian. Cab or public comment in Reno?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mitch Mazzetti for the Elko County Cab. We had a pretty good discussion on this one. There was some discussion on trying to make sure that these panels did have some local input. Obviously, most of these things would take place in heavily populated elk areas like Elko County or White Pine County. So but we did come to the consensus to support the recommendation.
Mike Reese, Clark County Cab. We also discussed this as well. This was a unanimous vote of 6-0. Thank you.
Additional public or cab comment, Reno?
Sean Shea, Washoe County. Yeah, we also unanimously want to see this go through.
Any more in Reno? Las Vegas, agenda item 10B.
No comment in Las Vegas.
Elko, item 10B.
No comment in Elko.
Bring it back to the commission. Any further discussion or question?
I just have one comment. I just want to make clear, because when we entertain the process tomorrow, I want everyone, it's my understanding that the commission hears this, or the appointed panel. If the appointed panel hears that their decision is final, it doesn't come back to the commission under this regulation. And that, I think, was our intent, but I just want everyone to confirm that now, because when we get to tomorrow and we'll talk about the process, I don't want to, get off the agenda item, but I'm just going to say I'm going to be making adjustments, because then the appointed panel's decision is final, it doesn't come back to the commission.
That is correct. And I think something to keep in mind is the comment that Elko had in terms of local involvement, maybe looking at the process. So, any other comments before we move this out of workshop? Okay, so hearing no objections, we will move this out of workshop as presented today and bring it back at the appropriate time, which will likely be next meeting, because we're on a little bit of a time frame for this year. So with that, I'll close agenda item 10B. We'll move to agenda item number 11. This is our public comment period. Persons wishing to speak are requested to complete a speaker's card and present it to the recording secretary. No action can be taken by the commission at this time. Any item requiring commission action may be scheduled on a future commission agenda. Any public comment in the day? Reno? Last call for public comment, Reno. Public comment in Las Vegas.
No comments in Las Vegas.
Public comment in Elko.
No comments in Elko.
Okay, apparently we've worn everyone out today, so I appreciate everyone sticking with us and sticking with the process. I know it was a long day, but we will recess until tomorrow morning, same place, 8:30 a.m. Thank you.